Hello and welcome to this week's EMBN show, and what a week it has been. More power, more grip from Bosch and Pirelli. But the key question is, what have you guys been up to as the world starts rolling again? Well, last week it was the rain that was getting Chris all wet and soggy. It seems this week it is the intense humid temperatures in the south of England. I think it's 34 degrees in that shed of yours, Chris, or even more possibly.
45 degrees in here, Steve. I've got a definite shine on my forehead, and I'm literally having to wipe my forehead with my t-shirt to stop the sweat going in my eyes. It's not pleasant.
Have you got a nappy wiping your brow there?
I wish. Maybe some wet wipes would come in handy, actually.
Yeah, I tell you what, you need a fan. Actually, you've got lots of fans.
Loads of fans on EMBN. How's the Welsh garden look today?
Yes, do you know what? I'm out in the sunshine finally. It's great. And you know what? I'm sure all of you guys are happy to be spending some more time out and about in the garden and on your bikes in lots of parts of the world now that lockdown is finally easing a touch. So on today's show, it's great to see what you guys have been up to. But what a week, Chris. We've had the new Bosch motor update from 75 newton meters to 85 newton meters, and of course that extended boost feature, which is actually quite a difficult feature to understand unless you're actually in the thick of it on some technical climbs. But lots of people have been making comparisons of this new motor update to what's on the market. But you know, some people have not actually given the results. But ultimately, does it matter, do you think, Chris?
Well, I don't think so. It does if you're racing and you want to, you're out there smashing it, going for your personal best, or you're racing your mates and stuff, more power. But I think as we're seeing, a lot more people are using e-bikes for adventure and going out there into the hills. We've even got a guy in a hammock relaxing out in the mountains. It's people like that. Then that doesn't necessarily matter, I don't think. That more torque and more power. What's your thoughts, Steve?
What do I think? Well, I'm going to ask you, where did that hammock come into the equation?
Well, you're going to find that out later on in the bike vault, Steve. I've got one in there for you, special.
Yeah, but you know what? It's when we talk about more power, you have to take into consideration that maybe if you're a lighter rider on a less powered bike, then you will actually be climbing possibly faster and more effectively than someone who's heavier with a more powerful motor. And then there's loads of other things to take into consideration, such as geometry, maybe the tires. Now, we've seen many occasions how much tires come into the picture, not just with the speed of climbing, but also the range that you get out of your e-mountain bike. And remember, if you've got an e-bike with more power, that's going to have more draw on the battery. Yeah,
and I think we've talked about all this power before as well, but I think you've got to be in control of that power. We've ridden some super powerful bikes here on EMBN, 120 newton meters torque plus. And, if you haven't got the skills to control that power, it's soon wheel spinning, or you're getting stuck, or looping out, things like that. So you definitely got to have the skills if you've got that power to match as well. I think that's a really important thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that actually comes before everything. And fortunately, that is exactly what the new Bosch update has done. It's allowed you to be able to climb more effectively and more efficiently. Well, there was other news this week from the Italian tyre brand Pirelli. They've come out with a new e-mountain bike specific tyre. Actually, they've come out with 3 different tyres for cross-country, enduro and trail use. So they're 2.6. It's a serious tyre, but it's quite light at the same time. And we've actually got an in-depth feature on these tyres coming out on EMBN.
Right, we've got some great news coming in about some of the bike parks that are reopening after the lockdown period. Now, all the Welsh bike parks are set to open from July the 6th. So we've got Bike Park Wales, Revolution, Dovey Bike Park, Black Mountains. All those bike parks are ready to roll from the 6th of July. But what they've actually done is open the venue to limited numbers. So there is going to be a prepaid list that you log on to, but you will be charged a little bit more for those extra rides. There's going to be an extra £3 charge for riders pedalling up or pushing up, or riders using e-bikes, and £7 for uplifts once they resume. So yeah, big news coming in from those Welsh bike parks, but great news that you can get your wheels back on those trail centres as well.
Yeah, so obviously now bike parks are one part of the mountain bike network and Wales is a very small part of in the global picture, but now obviously these are venues you'd normally pay to ride in. Obviously, it's not to be confused with the massive network of trail centres which you find up and down the UK, which are simply places where you pay for car parking and the trails are free, correct?
That's right, yeah. This is the pay-to-ride venues, that you'd usually pay, mostly the uplift venues as well, but currently they're just going to be push-up or ride-up, and once those uplifts will commence, you're going to be paying that little bit more for the uplift, and that's purely because the numbers are cut, so it needs to make the bike parks viable to open, basically.
Right, so well, great news then for people who want obviously the more gravity based venues in the UK, and it just so happens that a lot of those gravity venues are actually on the western side of the country in those mountainous areas. But it's interesting, we're keen to hear from you guys what's happening in different parts of the world, what's happening on the Gold Coast of Australia, what's happening in California, what's happening in Central Europe. So please get in touch and let us know so we can communicate these stories to all you guys on e-mountain bikes.
So we've had some great feedback on the 2020 bikes and the sub 3k e-bikes that we talked about on last week's show, but I think we missed a few off the list, didn't we, Steve?
Yeah, we did, especially on the previous week where we had the newest e-mountain bikes from 2020. Yes, there were a few which we didn't cover, and I think one which I definitely omitted was the Lightville. Now, Lightville makes some really beautiful bikes. The 301 CE Pro is certainly one which we should have had on that. I mean, look at it, Chris. I mean, stealth black. Now, this is actually a direct sales brand now, and it's 170mm front, 160mm on the rear. It's a mix of carbon fibre front triangle and an aluminium rear. Now, it's got a 630 watt-hour battery on this and the Shimano E8000 motor. Now, you don't actually get many batteries on the Shimano system with that capacity, correct?
No, this is quite new, isn't it? That's a newer battery on that.
Yeah, but the Duo Link on this bike allows you to ride either a 27.5 wheel or a 29-inch wheel, both front and rear, and I think that's a really cool feature. I mean, it doesn't come cheap. 8,000 euros for this bike. Again, like I said, this is direct sales.
But what's caught my eye, Steve, is this French company. So this is Watt e-bikes. Now, this is e-bikes with a slightly different approach, and the big thing about these bikes is the twin transmission technology. So you've got the standard mountain bike gearing on one side, and on the opposite side you've got a motor that's packed in there. The battery is mounted in the seat tube. It's a 200 watt-hour battery, but this motor can pack out 190 newton meters of torque. So it's pretty torquey unit, and that's on the throttle as well. So basically, if you want to get to a tech section, you want a bit of a boost, you just turn the throttle and go up. But it's obviously, you can switch back to a standard mountain bike transmission as you need it. And weight-wise, 17 kilos for the cross-country bike. I don't know, it's looking pretty good.
You're liking the look of that bike, are you?
I think it's a different way of doing it. I think it's cool with e-bikes that we've got people coming at from different angles. I think if we all went in that same mould, it becomes a bit boring. It's a bit of a weird one, this one.
Obviously, we don't do reviews on EMBN, but maybe we should introduce you to the Watt bike when we're at the next mountain bike festival. We can.
I'd like to have a go.
We can see what your thoughts are then. Anyway, moving from France to England, and it looks like Charge Bikes are about to launch an array of electric mountain bikes. Now, I've seen one which looks pretty cool. Now, it's possibly not an e-mountain bike. It's more of a sort of commuter bike, and but it's got some really nice touches on it. It's certainly a bike you would use on forest tracks, that's for sure. But the pricing, I mean, for goodness sake, it's like under £2,000. This is big news, right? With a Shimano E5000 motor, which I'm not actually very familiar with. But can you sort of give us some more detail on this bike, Chris? Because you're one from the area where this bike originates.
So yeah, got some really nice touches on this bike. I think Charge have really been thinking about what they want from an e-bike. So this has got folding handlebars, not necessarily folding bars, but just a flick lever on the back of the stem. It just allows you to turn your bars flat, just at a flick of a lever. It's got fold up pedals, so it just means when you're on a train and you want to stick that bike in the back of your car, super simple, it's not going to take up a lot of space.
I know you are a man who has done a lot of folding of handlebars and pedals in the past, right?
Not of that style, Steve, maybe off some drops, landing a bit hard and stuff like that, but yeah, it doesn't tend to work out too well when your bars snap. But yeah, I'm not into folding bars myself.
Chris Smith, he's such a rock star. Actually, talking about rock stars, what about this new Sondo's 150mm travel aluminium frame bike? I don't actually know where Sondo's is from. It's got a Bafang Ultra motor in there, which puts out 1,500 watts and a stump pulling, I think was this a quote from you? A stump pulling 160 newton meters of torque. Now, we've talked about power on the show today, but that is next level.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? And I mean, it looks a good bike. You said 150 travel aluminium frame. It's not your traditional kind of mountain bike. It's pretty funky looking. And the biggest news is that huge battery as well. I think it's 1,000 watt hours, that battery as well. So big bike, a huge power and an amazing price too. I think it's coming in at 2,400 euros at the minute. So yeah, good price. Coming up on the channel this week, we have got a week full of amazing content as always, and kicking it off on Friday, we've got basic beginner skills and setup for that first time you head out on the trails on your e-mountain bike. And on Sunday, what have we got, Steve?
Heavyweight versus lightweight. Now, this is actually not just heavyweight versus lightweight, but how much weight affects the handling of an e-mountain bike. So Chris has got a head-to-head going on there in the Somerset Hills. And then on Monday is a video which talks about the evolution of the e-mountain bike seat and how it is a very specific part of an e-mountain bike setup, and it's actually crucial to your e-mountain bike experience and performance on climbs. So that's coming up on the channel. Well, it seems Ray Cook went down a storm last week with his DIY e-bike for under £200. That double header we had on the channel, and some great comments and questions. Totally in love with Ray.
Yeah, you can't beat the good double header. Well, Burning Chariot, he's saying this was one of the best ideas and video series you've come up with on this channel. What a way to re-challenge what the industry is making a standard. Nothing beats experience, and even though unconventional, it's awesome seeing his mind solve this issue in such a creative and engineered fashion. Cannot wait for the next episode. So he's loving it.
Yeah, Burning Chariot, I totally agree with you. And it was such fun making that video with Ray. And we've actually been discussing other features which will be coming up on the channel in the next few weeks. Now, Scotty 1978 says, a couple of minutes into the workshop talk and you know it's going to be good. Old school wisdom, people who describe and work like that have my attention. Reminds me of my old engineering lecturers at college. Yeah, well, Ray is an incredibly knowledgeable guy and very skillful, and basically sorts things out very quickly. And Stuart Mosley here, Chris.
Yeah, Stuart Mosley says he got overtaken by a bloke like Ray yesterday on some homebrew hybrid. Must have been doing 40 clicks. Haha, he's saying. So yeah, maybe if you live down in South Wales, it might have been Ray.
Well, it's quite funny actually, just because prior to us making the video, when we did the sort of test rides on the bike, Ray actually went out onto the road, and there was a road rider in full lycra who actually just sort of turned his nose up at Ray on his like homemade Carrera bike, and then I think Ray had the last laugh. I think he went past him at 40 miles an hour, unofficially, of course, unofficially. Right, well, moving on from what has been to what is coming up and what is going on in the world. Now, I see there's some action, some tech action coming in from the Gold Coast.
Yeah, so this is Paul Moyer. So you might recognise that name, and actually Jack Moyer is his nephew, so he's well up to speed with everything in mountain biking at the minute. But he's been converting his Specialized Levo over to a roll-off rear hub, which is pretty interesting. He says he's been seeing chain and cassette wear just going on his bike just after 2 weeks. So he's currently swapped it over to the roll-off setup on there. He says currently has 2,400 miles on there, which is all serious mountain biking, and he's still using the same sprocket, chain and front chainring without any wear going on. So that's some huge numbers. He says he just loves a quiet and trouble-free operation. There's no maintenance needed on this bike apart from a $25 oil change, which you can just do on the hub. No tuning, just keep the cables in good condition and enjoy the ride. And there's some good shots here as well. You know, loving that heat camera shot. Look at that. You can sort of see what the bike is doing, where all that heat's being generated. Looks like that hub and the battery and the motor is getting pretty hot. I think that's a definite step in the, you know, in the right direction with these internal hubs going on. I just wish we see that hub mounted maybe above the motor, single speed to the back, and then I think that would be the ideal setup.
Yeah, Paul, fantastic stuff. Now, just to give you guys a bit of background, now Jack, who's his nephew, is actually a World Cup downhill racer. He's really, he's up there with the best. And Chris, $25 oil change. I'm loving that. That's
cheaper
fantastic.
than a chain sprocket and cassettes for sure.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think it's only a matter of time before we see even more of these on e-mountain bikes of the future. Definitely some future tech there going on. So as the world starts opening up and the trails get ever busier, over to you, Chris, to give us an update on out and about around the world.
Cool. Well, first up, we've got Ranald. He's out riding Peebles on his newly serviced and updated software on his Trek Powerfly. Says he's exploring a range of Iron Age hill forts. Got a really nice panorama shot in there. Look, loving that shot. Amazing views there and some great trails. Nice one.
Yes, well, Peebles is a place that, I know very, very well indeed. I did my first ever downhill race there back in 1995. Anyway, we won't go into that. Let's move on to this crazy contraption here from Brian. A cargo bike which is called Harry versus Larry. And it's powered by Shimano E8000 motor and it's absolutely rammed with tools. Looks sure to be a great way to get his tools around to the... it's a trail. I see what he's doing here. It's a trail building bike, right?
Yeah.
And this is in Waipa Forest, Rotorua, New Zealand. Very,
nice.
very interesting. Yeah.
Cool. So this is Maga. He's out riding, exploring his new Scott E-Spark out in Kazan in Russia. Loving his first rides on his brand new bike. Nice one.
Chris, is that a first from Russia?
I think it is. I didn't know there was much of an e-bike scene going on out there. When I saw it in the submissions, I was like, yep, that's got to go in.
Maga, please keep in touch with us. I'm really interested to know what the e-mountain bike scene is out there in Russia. Great news. Now, lastly, this is Ollie and Tony out for a spin around Winlatter Forest in the UK. The South Loop aboard their KTM Prowler and Specialized Levo, getting the miles in.
Nice. Good to see you guys out there enjoying your e-bikes and easing it up after lockdown. Keep them coming in, use the upload service, and it might be you on next week's show. So kicking it off, this is Jory on his shiny new Giant Rain E+1. He's out on Elmer de Camfan, shredding a nice track. Looks a good shot. Nice one. Nice.
It's nice, but what I'd like to know is I'd like you to go through that pronunciation because I've got no idea. Is it de Camfan? Where is that? Where is that?
Idea. Almere. So is that Spain?
Where is Almere?
No idea. I thought you'd be up to that, Steve.
Anyway, Jory, fantastic bike there, the Giant Rain E+1. We want to know where Almere is. Hey, whoa! Look at this. This is KTM. Oh, sorry, this is Kim, testing out some new Öhlins forks on the S-Works Levo here. Not sure whether that's true, that's the best way to be testing out forks though, Chris.
Yeah, going over the
nice.
bars. That's nice. Pretty nasty. This is Harry. He's been out on a monster ride of 65 miles on one battery, going from eco and off. He's riding a Giant Trance here, and this shot is outside Burley House in Stafford. Looks like a mini Buckingham Palace there, doesn't it? Super nice shot, and I think that's a super nice effort for doing those miles on that bike. Nice one. Super nice.
Yeah, boy!
They're going to think there's a new mayor in town.
Yeah, Chris, I tell you what, yeah, related to Harry there, you know what it's all about, going 65 miles with the riding eco and off, don't you?
I do, yeah, definitely. I think he's been watching one of our videos.
Hey, listen, what about Stuart then? He's been riding at Mousehold Heath on his shiny new Cube Stereo 160 and absolutely loving it. That is nice.
Nice, we've got the Ronde Valleys and another Cube here. This is a Stereo 140 though, and it belongs to Owen, who's been out exploring the valleys for a couple of hours. Super nice. Super nice.
Super nice. Got to be super nice from Ron there. And a stunning shot. This is a stunning shot here. This is Martin, who's been out with his son on his Father's Day ride on his Canevo around the Lac de Gers. Lac de Gers. I'll ask the wife for a pronunciation now. G-E-R-S. How would you pronounce that? The wife?
Gers.
Gers.
Lac de Gers.
Lac de Gers. Lac de Gers in the flying shops. Oh, that's got to be super nice. Mayor's Bell. I think we're going to call it the Mayor's Bell, and that's stuck,
okay.
stuck, isn't it? And another great shot here. This is Tracy from Carricktown, New Zealand, out for a ride with her husband, high up in the mountains, in the snow, absolutely loving the bike, loving the e-bike life, and her husband. Loving the e-bike life and her husband. Well, I should hope so, Tracy. And this is on the 2020 Canevo on order. That is super nice.
Nice, super nice. So this is Daniel. He's been out on his YT decoy testing out his new Fox 38 forks. I think it looks like the pistachio colour there. Even stopped for a mid-ride barbecue with his group. Now that sounds good, doesn't it? Nice pick that, loving that.
Do you know you've got pistachio coloured forks? Do you reckon we'll have like burger coloured forks in the future or something like that?
Don't
Or
know,
like steak coloured forks. Anyhow, lots of relaxing going on in this week's vault, and it doesn't get any more relaxed than this. Just reading Chris's script here. Kent has been out at the spectrum.
It didn't get you, damn.
Kent has been out in his Spectral, and he's up on Hart Mountain in the north of Sweden, sipping a fresh pressed coffee and chilling in his the hammock has come into the equation here. Chilling in his hammock, watching the midnight sun. This looks absolutely stunning. Kent, that is only one way. That is a super nice. And it all remains on this week's EMBN show is to nominate the Bike of the Week. Chris, as ever, you are the expert on this.
I don't know. It's been pretty close this week, some pretty strong entries, but I think a last shot from Kent and his Spectral on.
It's not from Kent, it's from Sweden.
Oh, no, his name's... His name's Kent, and he's I think that's just totally epic, going out there, you know, it's not all about smashing the ride out and going flat out. It's just about relaxing sometimes. I think when you've got a view as good as that and you're using your e-bike to get there, I think that sums it up for me. Banging shot, and it just shows a different way of riding. Nice one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it from this week's EMBN show. Thanks for joining us. Please keep in touch, especially if you're in some of those remoter parts of the world, such as some parts of Russia or Alaska, or maybe downtown Los Angeles, because that can be a little bit out of the way as well. Let's not forget. Let us know your thoughts on the new bikes we've shown on this week's show. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow to see the new eMTB specific tyres from Pirelli, that brand from Northern Italy. Chris, anything else to add?
No, I think just if you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up, and I'm going to get out this sweaty shed, and we shall see you next time.